Today is Wednesday, April the 5th, 2017. And today I must also talk about a couple ads that have been floating around the internet lately, but I'm going to start and spend the majority of the time speaking about one ad. And that ad is the world famous at this point ad with Kendall Jenner and Pepsi, so-called trivializing the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about, I'll explain briefly before we get to a short clip. Now, Kendall Jenner is of the Kardashian fame, and she is one of the younger girls coming up. I think her and Kylie are right around the same age. So Kendall decides to get in this commercial, and it's hard for me to explain, but basically it was like a Black Lives Matter centered commercial, and people got upset because she's white, and then the subject matter of the video didn't seem realistic. And people are just upset. Of course, anything dealing with Black Lives Matter, anything where they think it trivializes it or makes it be nothing but a product placement or opportunity for an ad, because it is Pepsi, and that was the whole point of the commercial, was to promote the soda can. People are upset about that. So I'll be able to explain it a little bit better once you see it. This will not be the entire commercial here. It does have music in it, so I can't play it here, but I will place the entire commercial in the box below. But this clip from NBC today, it gives you a pretty good understanding of what's happening. So once you watch that, we'll come back, we'll talk about it a little bit more, and then we'll go on from there and talk about the other ad at the end. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
The ad shows Jenner in the middle of a photo shoot while protesters take to the streets nearby. In the ad, Jenner notices the movement in progress, tears off her wig, and goes to join the action. This all builds up to the moment Jenner breaks through the crowd, hands an officer a Pepsi, and the protest transitions into cheering and applause. Well, the backlash was pretty immediate. One tweet reading, "I can't believe Kendall Jenner stopped police brutality with Pepsi. We have achieved world peace, guys." Many were upset with this moment, pointing out its striking resemblance to this iconic photo from the Black Lives Matter protest. Pepsi responded to this backlash and said, "This is a global ad that reflects people from different walks of life coming together in a spirit of harmony, and we think that's an important message to convey."
All right, so you see it. Now you kind of understand a little bit more. You know, she's going into the Black Lives Matter rally. She had on this blonde wig and took it off. I don't understand the significance of taking the wig off. Like, you can keep your wig on, that's fine. I guess taking the wig off, that makes you more natural. I don't know, but I digress. I understood the whole point of this commercial. You know, me, I'm in graphic design. I'm also like in marketing. I've bought ads for people. I've helped people to come up with ads and things like that's kind of what I do. That's like my background here. That's how I was able to get my YouTube channel like up and jumping. I understand marketing. So in this commercial, I already know what Pepsi did. Pepsi was just examining social media. They were seeing the chatter about who was talking about Black Lives Matter. They were able to do some research on the people that were doing it. You know, what age are they? What background do they come from? What's their education level? What kind of things do they talk about? Do they talk about diversity? Are they from diverse backgrounds themselves? Are they college educated? Are they young? Whatever. So, okay, you come up with a commercial with one person that is very well known among young people that use social media. Of course, that's going to be Kendall Jenner, because Kim Kardashian, her sister, if I'm not mistaken, Kim Kardashian is the queen of social media. That's how she really came up. Beyond the sex tape, when the sex tape happened, see, it's a lot of sex tapes floating around, but what Kim Kardashian was able to do was really use social media to her and leverage it. So you have a lot of these underlings under her on the Kim Kardashian show. They all are really heavy into social media. That's their whole big thing. That's how they're able to market themselves and make a lot of money. So they take Kendall. Cool. You know, she's not too far out there like Kylie. So we'll take her. We'll use her. A lot of people like her. They know her. We're examining the people on Twitter now. So we see who you follow. We see who you retweet. We see probably a lot of you that are interested in Black Lives Matter happen to, number one, not be black, first of all, because let's be honest here, the majority of people that are interested in Black Lives Matter are not black. That's just really what it is. It's mostly white liberals, beyond what somebody want to tell you, because in the average hood, in the average area where you got a lot of black folks at, they're not worried about Black Lives Matter. They worried about just how to get something to eat. They worry about where they're going to stay. They worry about trying to get a job. They worried about things that have nothing to do with, you know, this stuff on social media. Social media is kind of a walled garden, but this Pepsi ad was trying to communicate with those on that walled garden. But what they did not take into account was even though the research was correct about who was interested in Black Lives Matter and what kind of person would best be able to reach out to them, they didn't take into account the Black Twitter situation, which is a whole different story. I saw that that Black Twitter little skit they had on Comedy Central, which was crazy. I don't even want to talk about that. I might talk about that on my live show, but that commercial was crazy. And to bring it on back home, getting off track, but they didn't really think about the Black Twitter reaction. They didn't take that into account. They also didn't take it into account about how people will react to the Black Twitter reaction. A lot of white liberals are like, well, I'm offended now because they're offended. They didn't think about that, but their thought process from a pure, X's and O's numbers point of view was correct, because they appeal to those who are going to like Black Lives Matter, people that are for racial inclusion, no discrimination. They like social media a lot. They're on Twitter, they're on their phone, they're looking at the Kardashians' latest pictures. They had it right on point. So I can defend them from that point of view, but they're not looking at the real world implications of it. So when you're talking about marketing, to be a good marketer, to understand how to do good ads, you got to be able to understand how it's going to play out in the real world, rather than just looking at things from a data point of view, right? So that's where they failed with the ad. Now, of course, they did pull the ad, but it does exist still. The ad is still online. Like I said, I got it in the box below, but Pepsi themselves have pulled it right away. I think Kendall Jenner and everybody in the Pepsi organization thought it was going to go well. Kendall, she got her check for it. The people at Pepsi, they're like, okay, we got a good star. We got diverse crowds. We're talking about Black Lives Matter. They're going to love us. But no. And the main reason is because Kendall Jenner is white. Because I know that they've done their research a little bit. They're not so naive to the point where they don't know that this could cause controversy. Maybe they thought it wouldn't be that bad because you had guys like DeRay Mckesson kind of halfway endorse Verizon Wireless on this Twitter. You can see the tweet before you, what he said. Now, he came out and said it's not an ad, but what does that appear to be to you? To me, it looks like a plain old ad, but he said it wasn't. Now, nobody really gave him grief over that because, number one, he denied it, and number two, he's black. If that was a white person and they were talking about Black Lives Matter and they were endorsing Verizon Wireless, then it might be a problem. Even if they said it wasn't an ad, they could just say, oh, I'm a supporter of Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 blah. And I also like Verizon. They're not trying to hear it. They're not trying to hear it. Or if it was a white Black Lives Matter supporter and they did not have Black Lives Matter within the tweet itself, but you think about them as a supporter. I saw that story in Philadelphia where they disinvited the whites from their meeting. See, that's what I'm saying. See, maybe Verizon and whoever did the ad for them, if they hired an external marketing company to do that ad, maybe they didn't take into account that Black Lives Matter is not what they purport them to be on Twitter. They're not all about racial inclusion. They're not all about justice for all. It's a black centered group. It's just like the Black Panthers coming back. And matter of fact, when the group in Philadelphia was talking about not allowing the whites in, somebody had responded talking about Martin Luther King, and they said, well, that's him and that's fine, but Malcolm X did not allow whites around, which is funny because I know about Malcolm X in his Gay for Play days, but I digress. My whole point here is that they didn't really know all of the ins and outs of the whole situation. All they were looking at is the data, which was correct and exact, but they did not look at the hypocrisy that goes on with the Black Lives Matter situation, the overreaction of the black community and their hypocrisy as well on Twitter. And that's pretty much it. My advice to Pepsi would be just to stay out of social issues like that. Don't try and virtue signal for money. I'm against what they did because I'm not a fan of Black Lives Matter. People that are for Black Lives Matter are against what they did because they don't want to see their little movement be trivialized in any kind of way. I'm all for the trivializing of Black Lives Matter and making it look dumb. I'm with that. But what I'm not with is you trying to make money off of the whole Black Lives Matter movement and show it in a positive way. But I think at the end of the day, it probably worked out best for me that they did do what they did. So I'm cool with it. Now, to move on to the next ad, it was a Nivea ad. Now, first of all, I'll place the ad on the screen before you, and you can see right away what's wrong with it. But see, the thing about this is I'll defend this as well. If you place this ad in America, it's immediately thought about as being racist, talking about white nationalists, is that in the third. It's going to immediately cause a firestorm, and everybody knows that. But in the Middle East, where this ad was placed, it was placed on the Middle Eastern Nivea Facebook page, on their company's official Facebook page in the Middle East. Over there, you have a lot of skin lightening stuff going on, and that's kind of commonplace. And a lot of those products sell a lot of money. You're talking about maybe $1 billion industry of skin lightening products to become more white or whatever it is. That's very prominent over there. Not so much over here. I mean, it does happen here. We saw Sammy Sosa go through his transition and Michael Jackson, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're talking about the average Joe, it's not as common over here as it is in Africa, Jamaica, Middle East, maybe even Philippines, maybe even China, Japan, places like that. But definitely Middle East, some parts of Southeast Asia, Africa, it does happen a lot. So when you have a product that is talking about white is pure, does that and the third, that's part of a cultural thing they have over there. Now, I'm not saying it's okay. You know, you definitely wouldn't see me doing no skin bleaching stuff. And I wouldn't want anybody that I'm associated with, any young lady I'm with, to bleach her skin or lighten it or whatever it is. You know, I like her for her naturally, not with all the other stuff on. But over there, they're thinking, okay, this is what I have to do to advance in the world. And that's part of their culture and that's their business. So the ad was geared towards them. However, they got to know that social media is not just in one location. Social media is worldwide, and that picture can be worldwide. It has your logo on it and it says what it says on it. So it's easy for that to be disseminated all across the world. And then for the reaction to be immediate and fierce, even though it was not meant to be like that, it was just meant to appeal to a certain group of people that want that kind of product. You see what I'm saying? It'd be different if they were just trying to push it down your throat. Like, you know, white is right. No. This is just a belief that's had over there when you're talking about cosmetic products. They are trying to get their skin whiter, and I think it makes them more pure. That's their business. I don't got nothing to do with it. But again, that's people just not thinking about the reaction from others. It's not about the core base, because maybe the Black Lives Matter campaign from Pepsi would have gone over well if not for people that are in Black Twitter and people that are in offended Twitter. But to their core audience, 90% of them, it may have gone over pretty well. But just for the small select few, that's going to spoil the whole bunch. Now you got to pull the ad. And the same thing with the Middle Eastern Nivea ad over there on their Facebook page, right? You might have had like 100% like to dislike ratio, as far as it being 100% likes and 0% dislikes from the people that are there in the Middle East, because that's what they want. But at the same time, that ad can be seen by everybody worldwide. So then when an American gets a hold of it that wants to be offended and wants to make a big deal out of it, now you got a problem and you got a PR situation. Now you're getting letters to Germany where the parent company is headquartered at, and you don't want stuff like that. So in the future, to all my marketers, just make sure if you're going to have content with high visibility and you are in dangerous waters when you're talking about what you're talking about, especially Black Lives Matter, just stay away from that. Just don't do that at all. just leave it alone, because you can't win. If you say something good about it without actually trying to promote a product, you may be at risk of somebody being offended by that. If you say something bad about it, you'll definitely have a negative backlash, and you don't want that either. And as for Nivea, just be careful about what you do, where you do it at. That's kind of a tricky one, because you definitely want to promote the skin whitening stuff if that's a big market, if people want that. I would never do nothing like that. I don't want any young lady I'm affiliated with to do that. I don't think anybody should do that, but that's their prerogative. If they want to buy skin whitening cream, then that's fine. However, you got to be careful about the way you word things. You can still promote it, but just be careful. Don't talk about white is pure. Just run it by, quality control when you're talking about people that are able to look at it and see if it would go and if it would be okay in different places before you put it out to the public and then get a major backlash. Now you got to hire a PR firm and everything else to clean it up. So that's pretty much all I got to say about it. That's my marketing advice. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, but that's all I got to say for this video. What do you think? Do you think that Pepsi should have been a little bit more careful about the commercial they put out? Maybe they shouldn't have done a Black Lives Matter commercial. Maybe they should have just left that alone and just did like a regular, teeny bop type dance and just called it a day, phone it in, not try to go over the edge, not trying to be too controversial? Or do you think the ad was a good ad, but bad people ruined it? And as far as the Nivea Facebook Middle East page, the Facebook page ad, do you think that should have been worded better? It's funny. What was also funny about that, as I close here, was that on CNN, they had this story and then they said, oh, this has been shared by right-wing groups. So they're just trying to say, oh, or right-wing groups are just automatically white supremacists. Well, I'm right-wing, so am I racist too? Because I'm sharing this and I'm talking about it. I'm talking about how they did things wrong. See, that's part of the whole thing. You don't want to get caught up in the fake old media and have them just disparage you. You want to make sure you on point and say things properly so you don't have these kind of things happen. But do you think that the ad should have been able to be out there regardless of what? Because at the end of the day, it's appealing to a market that wants it. Whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.